Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show today. This is Piano Tech Radio Hour. We'll introduce what's going on here in a minute. If you're out there on Facebook and YouTube, get yourself settled. You're in the right place. We're going to talk about pianos and music for all you piano and music nerds out there. And we have a wonderful guest. And if you are out on the streams on Facebook and YouTube, we are doing a live Zoom call probably right now, or maybe you're watching the recording. But if you're watching it right now, it seems live. We'll have a link there in the chat, and if you click on it, you can actually jump right in here in the Zoom call. Just get a little bit of a closer seat, as it were. So we'd love to have you. Feel free. You can chat with the other participants and enjoy the show firsthand. But yeah, this is Piano Tech Radio Hour. Again, welcome everyone. Welcome everyone that's joined the Zoom as well today. We really appreciate you being here and showing your support and showing up for us. It's really great to have you here. Hello to all the regulars. I'm going to introduce the show for everyone so we know what's going on. This is Piano Tech Radio Hour. We gather here every Saturday to meet with and learn from the most fascinating and knowledgeable folks in the piano world. This includes manufacturers, rebuilders, musicians, makers of other instruments, and of course, piano techs. Our mutual goal is to become better at our crafts, to help each other, and to create an ever more musical world together. Piano Tech Radio Hour is brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses, an online learning resource that brings you cutting-edge instruction from piano industry masters without leaving your home. Find out more at pianotechniciansmasterclass.com. You can also subscribe to Radio Hour at just $16 a month. You can get direct access to each week's private Zoom call, as well as all the archival recordings of over 200 episodes in our member area. You can join using the link bit.ly/join PTRH. That's bit.ly/join PTRH. And then just a few things to remember. This thing gets released as an audio-only podcast. The Piano Tech Radio Hour podcast. You can go to pianotechradio.com to check that out, listen to it while you're driving around, working in the workshop, doing dishes, working out, whatever. And then, of course, we do have a blog where we cover technical aspects about pianos on Substack, pianotechniciansmasterclass.substack.com. Check us out on all the popular social medias, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And let me now get to introducing our guest for today. Her name is Heather Edwards. She is the co-founder and CEO of AhHa Broadway. Heather has trained as a classical pianist and graduated from the illustrious Berklee College of Music, Boston. She works as a pianist, songwriter, and recording artist who has performed with many types of bands, from funk and rock to jazz and country. Heather conducts, directs, and regularly performs in musical theater around the New York area. In addition to educating children at the Performing Arts for 25 years, she also enjoys teaching private piano and vocal lessons to children and working with them in musical theater productions as a pianist and music director. Heather has also played a wide range of characters as an actress in television, film, and theater. Heather, welcome to Piano Tech Radio Hour.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Of course. And I probably should also mention, thanks to your wonderful partner, Mark
Yes,
Rako, who
Mark
made the
Rico.
introduction. And it's funny, like I've listened to, I have a buddy who I have a couple people I've recommended guests for their podcast, and I'll go listen to the episode where the guest is on there, and they'll welcome the person or whatever, and I'm like, well, couldn't you just say, well, my good friend Ethan connection, like just for a minute, like that'd be fun. Let's go for it. So anyway, shout out to Mark, good guy. Also does some things in the podcasting space that are pretty incredible. Um, all right, let's get started here by getting some background and foundation for you. What are your earliest memories of getting into music and thinking about it as a passion that might actually lead to a career?
Well, I always loved the performing arts, and my parents always were showing me musical theater movies, the old movies, and what have you. So I was one of those kids that when I was supposed to be going to sleep, I'd be doing talk shows and little variety shows to my invisible audience and
Hmm,
singing and making up songs and what have you. And so I
nice.
wanted to be a movie star and a dancer and a singer and all that. And then when I was about six and a half, my parents bought a piano and I went to go play a song, and of course, it didn't work. So I complained about like I hear it, but I put my fingers on it and it doesn't work. And they said, well, you have to take piano lessons. So my dad was a high school math teacher and he asked his students, does anyone have a piano teacher that they like? Because we were interested in my young daughter having some lessons. And the girl raised her hand and she said, well, my mother's a piano teacher and I like her. So, and my dad liked this student very, very much. So he trusted her. And so I had my first piano lesson, ran home, tried to play the song, and I said it didn't work. And my parents explained it doesn't just take one lesson, you have to keep going back.
I love it.
So I was a little dismayed because I wanted it to be instantaneous, you know?
Sure.
And that's how I've been my whole life, actually, is I want to have everything yesterday. You know, I want
Mm.
that skill to be
Hmm.
perfected and ready to rock.
Yes.
So I gave my first recital about 4.5 months later. And when I heard the applause, I knew like that's what I was going to do.
Mm.
And so that intuition and that gut instinct and that passion that I had in recreating the stories and plays and musicals in my bedroom when I was supposed to be at sleep at night, it was a real thing. And it was a fortunate thing that my parents got that piano and I was able to discover that that was where my talent was the best, you know, the most. And so that led on to other things. And started songwriting when I was about 11. And then I was classically trained first and then came to jazz. And um, I got hired for a few things in high school, teaching and playing and being in bands and what have you. And from there, I wanted to go to Berkeley because someone that I really respected had gotten into Berkeley. And so I figured if they were, you know, going to choose that school, then it had to be really great.
Hmm.
And then a teacher from there recommended I go to Nashville for a couple of years because they were diversifying stylistically and it was really changing. But this was before it became what it is now. So it was still a little bit sleepy and slow.
Mm.
So I met a lot of amazing people and I still have friends there. But then I always had a passion for Sesame Street. And so that's what led me to New York. Is a friend of mine, his roommate was going on tour. So he said, come sublet. What have you got to lose? If you hate it, you can leave. There's no commitment.
Hmm.
And so that's how I came to New York. And
Hmm.
my sight reading is really what gets a lot of the bulk of my work because you can put music in front of me. And that's where my skill set really lies the most. But around 9/11, all of that dried up. There were, you know, no one was, Broadway was struggling. No, people weren't having parties where they were hiring musicians and after school programs, you know, everyone wanted their kids home safe and sound. So I did paralegal work and I did head of HR work, and I was very grateful that I was able to do those things, but I knew that wasn't, you know, I mean, I had paid vacations and benefits for the first time in my life, which was amazing, but that really wasn't where I felt at home. I loved the people that I worked with, but the corporate parts of things weren't me. And so I thought, well, what could I do as a quote unquote day job? And that's where arts education came in. And a funny story about being put into schools, I learned what questions to ask. And so I had to say, do they have a piano? Do you have a keyboard? And one of the schools said, sure, sure, yeah, we have one of each. And I was like, fantastic. And they said, you can pick which one you want. So I get to the school and they had a baby grand piano. And then uh, I went to go play it, and a lot of the keys were chipped and broken. And it was actually jagged enough where if I were playing like heavy octaves or what have you, I could have seriously given myself blisters because that's how damaged it was. But
Wow.
when I went to play, it was like clonk, 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 clonk. And I was like, what the? So I lifted up the lid and they were using it as a trash can.
Oh
So
my
that's
gosh.
what, yeah. So that's what the clunk, 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 clunk was. So that was discouraging. And so once I had cleaned that out, there were still strings broken and what have you. So I said, I think we're going to need to use the keyboard. And they said, okay, we'll go grab that for you. And it turned out to be, I think it was 2.5 octaves. It was a toy. So yeah. So I learned the questions to ask. kind
How
of
old
many,
were the
many.
students that you were working with at that
These were elementary school kids.
elementary? Okay.
Elementary school kids, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I've learned now to ask not just do you have a piano, do you have a keyboard, but do you have a working, are the keys whole? How many octaves? I have to explain what the octave, how many keys. But I have also come across where they want to do a full Broadway junior show. And the piano needs to be tuned to be fair to the kids, to be fair to the audience.
Mhm.
And so I'm not allowed to schedule that as a vendor or a pianist. You have to go through the Department of Education for an
Mhm.
approved vendor. And that's also
Mhm.
a challenge in and of itself because they say, yeah, you've got to have, and I said, can I recommend someone to you because we need it, on a kind of expedited timeline here.
Yeah.
And I've had people ask, what does a piano tuner do? And I say, well,
Yeah.
it should be in your vendor list. And it's frustrating. And I'm not, um, hammering on the DOE by any means,
Mhm.
but I'm just stating the challenges and the hoops that you have to go through for something that to us, it's such a necessity and makes so much sense, but it's very hard to come by. And,
Yeah.
so
This
yeah.
is very funny actually because so I have a piano tuning business in New York, right? I'm in Chicago area, but that's where my business is, and I used to be living there. And just the other day, somebody messaged us and they say, "Can you tune a piano, for school? Yeah, are you a DOE approved vendor?"
Hmm.
And I had to go, "We've been trying to figure out how you do that, like literally for probably like a decade." It is not, so anyways, maybe I feel like I've actually finally got the way in or something. If you have
Hmm.
any tips, we can talk about it
Sure.
offline or whatever.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
it's really funny that you bring that up. And I just checked on it again lately and I was like, but are we like how does it what is it? And it's weird because there's like a platform where you can have a profile, like you
Yeah.
can log in. Like I have a login and there's a
Hmm.
number that represents, my organization.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So then I guess maybe I'm a vendor. And then I'm like searching around there. Well, but you're not a vendor. Like you have a number, but not a vendor number or something like that. I have
Yeah.
no idea. And I assumed it was some like complicated paperwork thing. And the person I most recently contacted, well, you're going to have to fill out this form, and then it's going to take like 2 or 3 months for you to become a vendor. And I'm like, wow, this form is going to have to be crazy complicated. And it's just basically like it's like just one of those 1099 it's
Yes.
basically like a glorified W-2 form, or like
Yes.
put your name and address and social security number. It's like,
The
why is this so
processing
hard?
time. Yeah, it's the processing time.
2 or 3 months. I just put my name, my address, and my whatever, lay ID, whatever you call it. But yeah, it's crazy. Um, so tell me more about that's kind of a good overview. Did we miss anything that cut you off? Was there sort of like any
Oh
place
no,
where
no. I think I talked solidly without
sure.
giving you an inch.
I love those childhood stories. It is really I have a 7-year-old and I think I was a bit of a precocious younger child. Like my father would tell me like when I was relatively young that like he would do like baby talk or do these things and I'd be like, no. I was just like not into like kid stuff as long. I was like more like whatever it was, like adult stuff.
Hmm.
And it's funny to hear those stories, but so I have to like with my 7-year-old, I have to just really get like he's a kid, like he's never experienced X, Y, Z before, and you can't just like jump from the beginning to the end. You gotta start in the foundations, and hearing that story is very illustrative of what it's like to be a kid. You just don't know how the world works, You gotta
Yeah.
you gotta discover it. But I also identify with that a bit, not exactly the same, but a bit of I wouldn't call it impatience, but maybe ambitiousness. Like I find personally, even as an adult, uh, I got visions of the things that can happen
Hmm.
and I relay them to other people and I feel like we're all going to just go ahead and do it. And they're like, yeah, but this and I'm like, no, no, but it's going to work and like yeah, it's a very awkward situation to be in.
Yeah.
To be identified. So tell me about getting into, I want to hear about Broadway and like, what was the first germ of an idea around that exactly? And then when did it finally kind of, yeah, I don't know, become real? And I guess we'll start there. Yeah. So what was the sort
Sure.
of first germ of an idea and when did it actually become real?
Well, I've always been a super fan of Sesame Street and
Mhm.
that the way that they catered towards children and adults. There are certain children programming where the adults are just you know, that the children love it. But Sesame Street was so smart. And
Mhm.
that was one of, like I had said, that was one of the reasons why I moved to New York. And I did have an audition there. And I did meet with the musical director. But I had, like you were saying, we have ambition and there's a naivete about sometimes you have your whole thing plotted out, but it's not realistic. In your world, because you're ignorant of the rules or what the protocol is or what have you. So when I had my meeting with him, I had it all figured out. I was like, I'm going to make this so easy for you because I'm a pianist and I love acting. And what we can do is Bob right now is your resident piano player, but someday he's going to want to retire, right? So I could come in now as his niece and be on here and there. So by the time he's ready to retire, the audience will know who I am and the children, it'll be an easier transition so that they won't be as sad because, and I can help do songwriting and I can play. And there you go. And he's like, that is so creative. And there's this thing called the Writers Union, and they wouldn't like you taking their job that way, but that's really brilliant. So he let me down in a really kind and thoughtful way. But I thought I was like, here, I'll just slip right in and I've already done it for you. I've got the storyline, I've got the ideas. It's great. It's wonderful. In New York City, so knowing that kind of dreaming, and having the background that I did, I can relate to the way I think that kids think or even adults. And so seeing children discover those moments, what you call what the aha moment,
Mhm.
is really magical. And helping them to nurture that, and it's social and emotional and collaborative, and it helps them build self-confidence, and math and music go together, and dance and physical fitness go together, and acting and singing helps with literacy and public speaking. So there all these things are tied to academics, and
Mhm.
unfortunately arts, as you know, are often cut. It's one of the first things that the
Sure.
budget has cut.
Yeah.
So, having been a teaching artist, as you know, the musician, and I love dancing and acting, I still pursue that too. But also being an arts administrator or being on the corporate side of things in general, um, I think I have an edge to knowing how things work, but also I love the people that I'm working with and serving, but I also love the teaching artists because they're passionate and creative about what they do. So, AhHa Broadway started out as an idea to fill in gaps like after school programs or weekends or spring break or summer, along with other work that I was doing for other people. And it was it was conceived by myself and someone else in about, I don't know, January 2019, maybe a little earlier.
Mhm.
And the official launch was supposed to be in April 2020. And we all know what happened then. So we had to completely pivot and become an online service, which is fine because it worked and we did. And we
Mhm.
had talented teaching artists along with us. But the beautiful part about um, Zoom is that we were able to have more outreach and learned that there were people, senior centers were closed down, veteran centers, community centers, I mean, schools in general. And there were a lot of parents that said, more talking heads, more screen time. And I said, no, 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 we don't make the children don't have to mute. They're participating, they're collaborating. And then we had seniors and veterans who they were at home, many of them by themselves. And, they couldn't get to those places where they had community. And even now that things are way, it's been years, um, some people are homebound, so you still have that connection. And we have expanded because of that. We've got um, the children's musical theater programs, acting, dancing, singing, improv, whatever. But for adults, we also have a 1940s radio hour where we recreate original broadcast recordings that have been transcribed, the scripts and the music. And we've got comedy, which is a massive hit. And we give free performances. In fact, we have a Zoom performance about every month, month and a half for free that people just sign up and log in, and it's clean comedy, so anyone can join. And we also started to serve neurodivergent adults and be in group homes where people really face their fears. They wanted to come out of their shell, but they were afraid. And we have some people that say, I just want to come and watch. I don't want to really do anything. And sure
Mhm.
enough, by the end of class, they're like, okay, I changed my mind. Is that okay? Can I tell a joke? And you're like, yes, of course you can. And then the more that they become, confident and find the joy, then the audience gets bigger too because they're excited and the audience, and then sometimes the audience says, how do I become a part of this? Um, and then one of our new initiatives is, well, let me back up. So part of a nonprofit obviously is fundraising, which is my least favorite part. It's very challenging, and especially when the pandemic happened, everyone was in a tough spot. And so if you had 500 grants available, let's say 10,000 people applied, and now it's like 50,000. So the competition is insane. And a lot of them have changed the rules for foundations and grants and solicited versus unsolicited, et cetera, et cetera. And um, so Giving Tuesday and even in-person events are still the landscape has changed. It's ever changing. It's you constantly have to learn. And so at first we had children and seniors that needed access to computers and learning how to use them and Wi-Fi. And so we had an initiative called 1,000 Kids to bring computers because we had kids that were living in shelters and they were getting knocked off their grades because they couldn't complete assignments, which is
Mm.
awful. So
Yeah.
we did that and it was successful. And then we reinvented the next year. Because of You was our initiative, because of these people that came to the aid that we were able to, bring. And we had the children do testimonials and say, because of you, I was able to do this. I was
Mm.
able to do that.
Mhm.
And it was really nice. It was really nice to get the kids to tell their stories. And then last year we had an initiative, I'm Possible, which we're saying it's not impossible, I'm possible.
Mm.
And the initiatives we were working on was musical theater summer camp, and some of the kids have been with us. And so they've, you know, jumped leaps and bounds. So we started having a student leadership component to our summer musical theater camp, and we have Broadway stars come and do talkbacks and Q&A with the kids. And some of the kids have never stepped foot in a theater before, so we take
Sure.
them to a Broadway show. So it's amazing. We have live
Yeah.
musicians, a real theater, etc. And then had our other initiative of becoming more present in senior centers because their budgets are teeny tiny. And then the neurodivergent adults, we wanted to bring more attention and care and programming to them. So
Mhm.
it was successful, and we decided this year I'm Possible 2.0. And we added another initiative to it, which is Girls Who Direct. So that would be empowering girls to become directors in film, theater, television, to have mentors come and work with them and to show them, Olivia Wilde said in an article recently, girls are said you should be an actress and boys are told you should be a director. That's not true. Everyone can be anything. So
Mhm.
we want to have that platform and propel that forward as well. So, just want to
Yeah.
save the world. That's all. That's all we want
That's
to do.
all. Just
No
yeah,
big
every
deal,
way we
right?
can.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, it sounds wonderful. And I'm glad to hear you're having some success with it. When then, so I mean, you kind of uh went through it in various ways, but maybe just to put a pin in it, what are the various ways that people can get involved, right? Like, is it is it like schools that should be outreaching to you? Is it people, reaching out to donate or
Mhm.
bring some sort of group together or like, what, there's like I'm saying, there's different avenues, right? There may be
Sure,
some sort of
sure.
fundraising aspect, there may be some sort of participation aspect, but what are the ways at the moment that people can get involved?
Okay, so yes, we do school residencies in school and after school. We do senior
Hmm.
centers and group homes communities. We work through grants that are reimbursable, which means we put the money up front and then eventually we get reimbursed. So donations are critical.
Hmm.
And foundations, sponsors, corporate sponsors, a lot of employees, their company may have a donor matching program. So maybe investigate that.
Hmm.
We also always welcome volunteers who want to help with grant writing or outreach or becoming a board member.
Hmm.
We always welcome someone to come and join our board um, and work with us in that way as well, and impact, make a greater impact and amplify our outreach. And there's so many things that
Yeah.
can be done, and I'm happy to talk to people and answer their questions. And even people you've probably heard and seen, any amount helps. Even $5. Humans of New York did that for us a few years ago. My husband, Mark Rako, who you had mentioned earlier, had been featured, and they had included his mention of our AhHa Broadway website.
Hmm.
And the strangest thing happened, which was not long before that, AhHa Broadway had been hacked. Unfortunately, people who were professional hackers dealing in credit card theft decided, hey,
Hmm.
their donation platform would be a great way to test credit cards and seeing if they've been shut off yet or not.
Oh
So
no, I've heard of
I
this. Yeah.
got hundreds and hundreds and
Oh my
hundreds of
gosh.
11 cents, 14 cents, da, 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 and it took
Oh
a
my
long
gosh.
time to clean it up, and it was
Oh, I'm so
very
sorry to hear that.
frustrating and messy.
Yeah.
Yeah, because why not hit a nonprofit? Why not? That's
Yeah.
more evil, even more evil. So, after Humans of New York heard Mark's story and looked at AhHa Broadway, they believed in our mission and they uplifted because I was, kind of down in the dumps about things because it's challenging, it's hard, and
Yeah.
I beat myself up. I say, what else can I do? What am I missing? What do I need to fix?
Mhm.
What do I me,
Yeah.
like what do I it's I have to take care of this.
Mhm.
And my phone started exploding and I was like, oh no, I'm being hacked again. But it was real donors, $5, $10, $5, $10, 25. And 3,000 people coming together. And the old saying about give up that one cup of fancy coffee,
Mhm.
just one, it adds up. It's amazing. And that those
Yeah.
people from Humans of New York carried us for about a year and a half.
Wow.
Yeah, because we were able to implement a lot of programs to communities who were under-resourced and didn't have access. So that just shows that that $5 or $10, you can do good. And if you can't afford it, spread the word. Just tell people about us. Come and see what we do firsthand. I'm happy to, you know, walk someone through one of our workshops or, you know, let them
Yeah.
come and see one of the shows for free because all of our shows are free. We don't charge ticket prices at all. We
Wonderful.
want to pay it forward so that people can see what our amazing students can do.
And are you primarily in New York, or was there some things that opened up, further out because of the sort of virtual stuff that you did?
Well, the Zoom, we have people all throughout the United States, Canada, and we've even had a student in Italy. And the children, during the pandemic, we reached 9 different states. And um, currently, we do a bulk of our schools, obviously, are in New York City area, but we also have gone New Jersey, Connecticut, and around the area. And then we've also had bus loads of kids come from Pennsylvania when they do a field trip to go and see a Broadway show. Our Masters of Makeup teaching artists have done incredible workshops with busloads of kids, teaching them different Broadway looks, and
Mm,
that was
that's
really
fun.
cool. That was yeah. So yeah, it's not limited. We're happy to
that's an
work with
advantage. Yeah.
all.
That's like the silver lining on that cloud, right? Oh, okay, we did things virtually, okay, but now
Yeah.
we have some connections all over the world. It's interesting on a program like this, you hear about a lot of pandemic projects. It's so
Yes.
funny. And
Yes.
how they evolve. We had a guy who was a piano tuner, and when this show actually started during the pandemic, when literally there was a moment there where like a bunch of people were like, okay, my career's over. You know what I mean? I've got to find another job or whatever because I can't I'm not essential. I'm going in somebody's
Right.
house. Like this is not going to work at all. And so we were there doing this show, kind of like carrying people through it. But we had one guy on. His name's Lauren DeGiorgi. He was a piano tuner, but he couldn't tune pianos. He said, I always like to goof around on the piano and do kind of silly stuff. So I'm gonna start making some Instagram videos or whatever." And he starts
Mhm.
putting these video ups. He's like, play songs backwards or something, or like make a Beethoven sonata sound like a smooth jazz thing or whatever, just
Yeah.
kind of like mashups and stuff like this. And it like takes off, and he's got like millions of followers all of a sudden. So he's kind of like internet famous as like this piano goofy guy. And he's not really doing pianos anymore. It's just like kind of funny. So
Oh,
there's a lot of funny
wow.
stories that we hear about because of what people decide to do during the pandemic. So
Yeah. Well,
there's
that
a,
just
there's been a
proves
lot of
though,
plannings.
creativity,
Yeah,
creativity is so important.
absolutely.
And the power of music and the arts to make
Mhm.
people happy in a downtime, that's
Yeah.
what everyone turned to. So it's kind of ironic that when budget cuts come around, music, acting, dance, and even the visual arts, you know. But look what we all turn to keep us connected and give us joy when we were all in lockdown.
So
The
so tell
arts.
me tell me a little bit more about sort of your other career experiences and stuff like that. You've certainly done a lot of different stuff, playing in bands, doing acting gigs and things like that.
Yeah.
What I don't know, I just love to hear any interesting stories, did you do any like funny commercials? Did you I don't know, did you get a guest spot on Sesame Street or anything like what or any
No,
or was it all just like
actually,
boring? I don't know. What kind
yeah.
of stuff have you done?
Um, I mean, I've been in situations because of music and acting and what have you that are surreal.
Uh-huh.
And I love to play. I love to perform.
Yeah.
And so I did go through a few years where I never said no. And my
Mhm.
mother said, you haven't been home in a couple of years, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, because of I'd say one of the things that I'm really bad at is my concept of time because I
Mhm.
don't have a Monday through Friday, nine to
Yeah.
five kind of
I'm like that
schedule.
too.
So I'm just like, yeah, it's all a blur and it's all cool.
Hmm.
And so I've done, people would say, "Oh, background work on a movie." Bleh, I can't tell you how many amazing things happened to me when I was doing background work and when I got to New York. I mean, costumes already, that's amazing. If you get costumes, if you get period costumes, even better. But and hair and makeup, yeah. But the people that you meet, I would be in holding, and I remember very vividly one of the actresses was on the phone with her agent, and the agent was saying, "You've got an audition tomorrow, but you've got to bring your own accompanist." And she's like, "How am I supposed to do that? I'm on this shoot, and it's going to be like 17 hours. Oh my gosh!" And I said, "Hi, meet your accompanist." And
Yeah, nice.
ta-da! I mean, right place, right time. It was great. And so like, and she couldn't believe it, and I was very happy, and it worked out great. So, moments like that are always really, really nice. But I worked on a movie doing background as an audience member for Music of the Heart. And that it's like Perlman, Isaac Stern, Meryl Streep. I mean, amazing, amazing cast. And getting to be around them. And then when they're resetting lights or camera angles or what have you, and Itzhak Perlman is cracking musician jokes. And you're like, how is it possible that I'm sitting in Carnegie Hall reenacting something that really happened, getting to hear these people crack musician jokes? I mean,
Mhm.
it's an experience like that, and you get a paycheck. I mean, it
Mhm.
was just incredible. So stories like that, I don't think, there's always a great moment in things that people say, oh, that's so mundane. I'm like, then you're not paying attention, because I think that's really special. I mean, never would have ever thought I'd have that story to tell.
Yeah, that's cool. And are you still doing like gigs here and there in these
Oh
different
yes. Oh
categories?
yes.
Yes. Okay. So it's
Yes.
not all
I
exclusively a hot
Yeah,
bar.
yeah. I play and musical direct shows. I still can, I'm writing. I'm not writing as much because AhHa Broadway really takes up a lot of time. Because I still work as a teaching artist and I'm doing the administrative side of things.
Okay.
And grant writing and all that stuff takes a lot of time. But I do play, like I love solo gigs. I've played for galleries when they've got a big exhibit on a gala night. And I try. One of my favorite things is I'll find out what the theme of the exhibit is, and I'll choose all of the music to complement the artwork. So I remember one was all about architecture, so I tried to find all songs about architecture, which was a
Okay.
little, it was challenging, but I found I found a couple of hours set of, music that worked with that. And then there was one that featured all artists from Mexico. So I found different eras of music by Mexican composers and all different genre of music from Mexico as well. And some of the people were just blown away that they heard it and they're like, "Oh, it's home, it's home. Thank you for doing
Definitely.
that." So things
Wonderful.
like that. It's just a little. I mean, for me, it's fun because it's research and I get to learn new music and I get inspired and it's educating me too. But when people come over and they're touched by it and they're like, "I never thought I would hear that today." That's kind of, you know, extra,
That's wonderful.
icing on the cake.
Now, I've asked other people on the show this question who are in a similar position. How do you do the sight reading? I mean, I can sight read okay, but like,
Mhm.
what are some of your secrets? I mean, I'm assuming that maybe there might be a part of it that just kind of came naturally. I don't
Yes.
know, or it was an intentional practice, but what do you think has turned you into or made you a good sight reader? Any tips for people getting
Sure,
better?
sure. I've had that question before, and part of it is just in my DNA. I was very blessed. I was very lucky. It just
Mm,
happens.
mm,
But I wanted to be able to give people something that they could actually do beside because you can't by osmosis. It's not, I can't
right.
impart that onto them. But yes, I do have exercises. And it's funny that you should bring that up because it goes back to what you were talking about a little earlier with you can write out your notes for yourself, or you can use existing sheet music or scales or what have you, and just practice them, and then turn it upside down. Turn your music upside down and read it backwards. Then
Mm,
go back if it's your own and add accidentals, add flats and sharps and naturals, and then turn that upside down and read it backwards, and just keep
mm,
flipping it and reading it back and forth. And I think it's just there's a muscle memory to it.
mhm.
And it's just like anything, the more you do it, the better you will be. You have to be patient with yourself, which yeah, I'm not good at taking my own advice. I have great patience for other people, but with myself, sometimes I'm like, why can't I get this now? When you're a little kid, you don't know a whole lot, so you're just like, sure, whatever. But as an adult, you beat yourself up about it. So,
So what is it?
um,
What's
you
the
know,
experience like sitting down and sight reading something? Is it different for different genres? Do you look over the whole thing first, or you just kind of sit down and just go page to page and just roll right through it like a book? Or what's it like for you to do that, to perform a sight reading?
sure.
Yeah.
Um, Usually I just attack it, but if it's something that's got lots of movements to it for a classical piece, I'll kind of look through and see what are the key changes or meter changes or just completely different pieces. Like Prokofiev, Seventh Sonata, the three movements are very different from each other. So that might be a different animal. But I recently was working with 350 children, and we did a holiday performance. I worked with them for 2 months. We did a Halloween song, a Thanksgiving song, and a holiday song, and then a bonus song that I wrote for their school. And after the performance, we still had a couple of weeks together before our time together was going to be finished. And so I said, we are going to do theater games. We're going to talk about song structure. We're going to do mini musicals. I'll give you a topic and you write the music, what have you. Um, and then they started sticking sheet music in front of me. And it was really funny because they were pulling up things on their phones or on their tablets, and they're like, "Now play this, now play that." And I said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa! How did this become the me show?" But things like that, it's a hoot for me because they thought it was hilarious. They just couldn't, believe it, and they were pulling up everything from video game theme songs to television to pop stuff that they've heard. So
When you look at
sometimes.
it, I'm sorry, I'm a little bit fascinated. When you look at it, can you hear it a little bit?
Sometimes part of the reason why I got, oh, this is a good point. Yeah, you made me think of something. When I went to Berkeley, that was the first time I had ever taken ear training and sight singing, and that has helped me so much. And I know for drummers especially, that's very challenging because they're not doing things that are melodic and what have you. They're percussive.
Mhm.
So they nail the rhythmic stuff for sight singing and ear training, but for the notation. And so that I have gotten much better because of.
Mm,
I do hear things. I don't have perfect pitch by any means,
sure.
but I have pretty decent relative pitch. I can nail
Mhm.
some of the notes, and some of them I'm just what. But yeah, sometimes when I because of sight singing and the pitch might not be on the dot, but I can figure out what the intervals are and where things should go, so I can kind of pick it out. But like
Yeah,
chords are a different, different ball game because chords are,
right.
all the different, tensions and what have you. So people say sing that like I can't split my voice into four notes. I wish I could. Not Layla Hathaway where she can do that, where she sings two notes at the same time.
Yeah, tube and throat music or
Yeah,
something.
amazing.
Um, yeah, Berkeley's a great place. Actually, we have one of our piano tuners at Floating Piano Factory, Joe Melnikov. He went to Berkeley. Really excellent flute player that's now in New York. He was here before the pandemic with us, then he left back to Israel and he came back again recently. Um, he's a younger guy, but like his most recent album has like Billy Hart playing the drums, like it's amazing music. And then we just had a guy on named Marco Benevento, who's a Berkeley guy. Have you heard of him by chance? No,
I don't.
he's a keyboard player.
Mhm.
He probably graduated at some point within the past, I don't know, 15 years or something. But he lives in upstate New York, and he's got 40 different keyboards in his house. We interviewed him and talked to him,
Oh my
and
God.
I found out during the recording that he was going to be playing in Chicago, and I actually went and got to see him live a couple days ago with a band, and that was really fun. But yeah, a lot of great musicians coming out of Berkeley and definitely a few people in our circles. You know, we've had work for us as piano technicians as well as come on this program. So
Mhm.
what was it, did it when you were there, was there kind of what was your focus again? Like when you were there, did you have like a
Piano
major
performance. It was
piano
piano
performance?
performance, but I tested out of a lot of things.
Hmm.
So I had some credits that were available to
Yeah.
me so I tried synthesis and I tried I took film scoring class and some arranging classes and voice lessons. Um, And it's really funny because I wanted to be really good at synthesis and I'm like super not. It just didn't click with me. And the teacher would say, just noodle. And I'm like, I'm not a noodle person. I'm a get it right and make what I want.
Nice.
So I was like, okay, you can't be amazing at everything. But I was surprised
What
because
does
I thought I would be
synthesis
better at
mean exactly?
like synthesis,
Like,
programming keyboards and
okay.
creating sounds and
Okay.
learning about the
Got it.
different waveforms and
Yeah.
all of that technological that stuff. I watch people do it and they're in their own little world and they're just and I'm just in awe of stuff like that because
Yeah.
I know what it takes, but
Yeah.
they make it's just like anything. When someone's really good at something, they make it look so easy. They make it
Right.
look like
Well, it's like you said, that's actually it makes me think of when we go all the way back to you being a little kid, sitting down the piano and be like, it's not happening.
Right.
I just remember that as a younger jazz musician, you'd go out, and like McCoy Tyner was coming through town or something, and you go to see him at the local jazz club, and he'd be like, "Oh, it's so amazing!" And you go home thinking like, "I can do that, I can do that," and you just put your fingers on the keyboard, and you're like, "This does not sound like that." But you get
Yeah.
so excited when you see somebody do something well, it makes you feel like it's easy,
Yes.
until you actually try it, and then you're like, "Oh, no." Yeah, I get
Yeah.
that. Um, so. What do you see the future like for you here? You've got all these different facets of your career.
Mhm.
We've talked about, being an accompanist, playing piano,
Sure.
doing things in theater, acting, and then of course you've got the non-for-profit. So like when you look ahead,
Mhm.
and you may or may not have plans. You said you kind of live in
Oh,
the
I
moment.
always have a million plans.
What
Yeah.
do you, what do you
Not
think it
enough
looks like
hours
in
in the day.
5 years? I don't know if you're thinking 10 years, maybe just 1 or 2 years. Where do you think this is all headed, you know, ambitiously, practically? What do you think?
Sure. Oh gosh. Yes, I knew after 9/11 it was going to take about 4 years for New York to get back on its feet and in turn performing and Broadway and all of that. And so I was really thankful that I was able to have that. It was kind of I had the time to focus on the nonprofit a little more because of it. Because before, in 2019, I literally had, it was a beautiful lineup. I had gigs and everything lined up every day for 9 months. I mean, I did not have to turn a single thing down because there were no conflicts. Everything just gelled. It
Wow.
was like, woo. And then, of course, it all went away in a puff of smoke. So I knew from 9/11 that it would take a while. And I'm thankful that AhHa Broadway was there to, focus on and I could still be connected that way. And then things have slowly been coming back, and I'd like to get my performing schedule back to what it was. And I would like to, I mean, in any capacity, I love um, solo work, musical theater work, bands, playing auditions, seeing, uh, how acting in theater and dance and all of those meld together to become something. Um, that's something that I'd really like to be able to get back to where it was and be full. And I would like for AhHa Broadway, I'd like to be able to hire more teaching artists to give them work to support them. Because that's what I was saying earlier is um, good people who are creative. I want them to be happy too. I want them to wake up in the morning and be like, I can't wait to go to work. I can't wait
Yeah,
to be with these people, so I want to be able to give more there and just be more places and spread that kind of joy through arts education. And because it's infectious. I mean, until people see it, you can't even imagine how magical it is. It really is
sure.
seeing people experience that. So yeah, that's what I see, and that's what I'm constantly striving for. And
Tell me a little bit more about these teaching artists. How many have you worked with over the years? Maybe a handful, maybe
oh,
many.
dozens and dozens over the
Yeah.
years.
And
Um,
how do they get involved? It's a volunteer thing, it's not a paid
oh
thing, or
no, 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 no. That's one thing I don't believe in. I don't believe because you wouldn't go to the grocery store and say, "Hey, I like that bread, give it to me." You wouldn't go to an attorney's office and say, "Hey, I need an attorney, but I got no money. What would you do for free?" But for some reason in arts, people always want a discount or a, "Hey, can I have that for free?" or "Hey, you want to play
sure,
my thing?" Right? So I don't want to be that person. I want people to be paid what they're and I because I value them. I know they
sure.
train their whole lives to get to what they're doing. They paid for
Yeah.
lessons. They paid for tap shoes. They paid for instruments. They've
Mhm.
got investments, and it's constantly, you're buying new instruments, you're insuring your instruments, you're keeping your body in shape, your voice in shape, whatever it is. So no, I don't discount they are taken care of. And if
Mhm.
I can do more, I will do more. That's what I also always want to make sure that they're getting better than scale if I can. Um, so yes, one thing that I love is when teaching artists refer each other because they know if they're a good fit and I trust their judgment. I want people who are skilled and that their heart is in it, that I'm not just bringing someone in that is seeing it as a paycheck. It's because they
Mhm.
love what they do.
Sure.
And I'm very transparent about expectations and what have you, but also I listen. I want to make sure that if they have a problem that they're heard. I don't, ever want anyone to feel like they're not being heard or that they have a problem that they can't come to, have it solved but they don't have to feel alone and that they,
Mhm.
you know, um,
So what
so
how did they, so you said that one way, like referrals, but how
yes.
did they find out about you, and how do you find out about them or whatever? Like how did you come together with these people who become teaching artists?
Sure. So if they wanted to look at our website and see what we do or on our social media, which is at AhHa Broadway across the board, Facebook, Instagram,
Hmm.
they can see what we do. They see the style of how we work. If they have questions, we have a contact us on the ahhabroadway.org website. We also have all of our teachers' headshots and bios and their social media because I want people to see them and connect with them and support them. So,
Hmm.
that connection is there as well.
Hmm.
And so, yes, I sometimes I see people even in a performance or doing work for someone else, and I'll approach them um, because that's the one thing is there's really there's so much opportunity. To say that there's a non-compete or what have you, there's so much opportunity and so much need.
Hmm.
Um, I don't think that I don't have a problem if someone's working for someone else that does similar to what we do, you know,
Hmm.
um, because there's such a need. There's so many, I mean, there's like 900 schools or something like that just in New York City alone.
Hmm.
So, there's plenty to go around. There's, you
Sure.
know, there's plenty. So, yeah,
So mostly the people, it sounds like mostly people find you. You at this point.
a lot of
You're
times
not,
they
or you're
find
just running into somebody, or you see them, oh hey, you should, look it up, and
I
then
see
they
their
follow up.
yeah, I see their work. Or like I said, we have Broadway professionals do talkbacks.
Hmm.
Or board members will be out and about and they'll see someone and they'll say, "Hey, you would be a great fit. Are you interested?" Or, "Oh, I really like the way that I saw you working on whatever project. Would you like to inspire students, or would you be interested in what have you?" And so there's so many different ways to be connected with people. So,
What is a for clarity's sake, define what a talkback means. I
oh,
mean,
yes,
people
sorry.
can ask
Yes,
questions, or like almost like a
yes,
pick your brain kind of thing.
yes. So, for instance, in our musical theater summer camp, we have an artist come up on stage, and the director or musical director or will interview them,
Hmm.
and basic questions that the students would be interested in learning the background of the artist. How did you know this is what you wanted to do? What's the hardest thing you've ever encountered? What's it auditioning like? How do you prepare? What's an interesting story? What's an embarrassing story? Whatever they are. And then after the talk back, which is us talking, we open
Hmm.
it up to the students to ask their questions. And
Okay.
then and so that's when the students get to have the interaction directly with the
Okay.
artist. So because we know what we're interested in, we know what we think they should know and learn, but the
Yeah.
kids always come up with their own, you never know what they're going to ask. So
Yes.
they
Yes.
have that moment and they feel, it's important. It helps build their confidence and make them feel heard too.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay, got it. Yeah, I kind of had an idea, but I wanted to clarify. I
yeah,
feel like
like
we went to like a high school, my kids like six, and we went to like a high school play. I feel like they did a thing at the end of it to say, well, we're going to have a talk back with the actors or something.
yes.
I
Yes,
think
sometimes
that's what that
Broadway
was.
shows will have a talk back after the
Like a
performance
tip
where the
that's like after,
audience,
yeah,
sure.
yeah, yeah. And there were the kids, and they were asking, were you nervous? Stuff like
Yes.
that. So cute, the questions they had. Um, okay, so what was I gonna say? Oh, and then the categories of professionals, right? So like it sounds like is a lot of actors that are doing it, but are there musicians? What is the profile of the people that get involved as the teaching artists?
Teaching
Are
artists,
there
yes.
different
So
profiles? Are there multiple profiles, or is it kind of like a basic profile?
the people have different specialties.
Hmm.
Um, Dance, they may specialize in Fosse, but they may specialize in many styles.
Oh, okay.
Acting, they may be general acting coaches, or they may have a specialty in improvisation.
Okay.
Um, and then musicians, yes, I like to have the children have the experience of having live musicians, being a musician myself, obviously.
Sure.
But I, tracks that can the power goes out, you don't have your music. Tracks keep going. If a kid makes a mistake, the track keeps going. Or if a student accidentally repeats a chorus, it, tracks aren't going to stop. And live musicians, they can help cover up those things, and um, they're there to support the students.
Sure.
So live musicians are critical, I think.
Okay.
And I've had children that are on stage, or anyone, adults, etc., who are on stage, and they say, I wanted to try this and I really, really love it, but I really don't want to be on the stage. Can I be that person? I'm like, what do you mean, the sound engineer? Yes. How do I do that? So yes,
Hmm.
we've got sound engineers, we've got lighting designers, we've got
Okay.
costume people, stage managers. Oh yeah, we have kids that you're born to be a director, you're born to be a stage manager. You've got that down, right? So they want to be
Mhm.
that. Um, we also, like I said, we have the masters of makeup artists who are incredible. So they learn about stage makeup, but they also learn about glamour and how to transform yourself with makeup and how to be safe with makeup. So we've got the on stage
Okay.
as well as behind the scenes, because everyone is important, and we really stress, if you don't have your lighting person, you're doing a show in the dark. If you don't have your sound person, no one can hear you. But we do teach the students to project their voices, not to rely solely on microphones.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's interesting. Yeah, so quite a diversity of people in the performing arts. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Even
And even
behind the
the set
scenes.
designers and scenic, we try to
Mhm.
do every facet so the children um, can have a taste of all of it,
Great.
because you never
Well,
know,
thank you
you know?
so much for giving us an overview of all this. It sounds like a wonderful, exciting world, and you get to interface with so many, wonderful professionals and artists, as well as, the clientele that you serve, the communities that you serve. It sounds like it's quite an experience. So I'm glad
Yeah,
that you've built that. Um, just reiterate for everyone or add something new where they can go to kind of find out more and follow along. Any
sure.
sort of final words of wisdom or anything before we cut out?
Um, yeah, my personal website, heatheredwards.net,
Okay.
and ahhabroadway.org, which is AHHA Broadway,
Hmm.
two H's in there, .org. And they can also find me personally online, on the social media, and AhHa Broadway as well, which is at AHHA Broadway. And I think that the biggest thing that I just want to stress is people should be supportive of each other and help each other discover talents, and be kind. That's a huge, huge thing that we talk about, is being a part of community and being kind. And music is healing. Music it's amazing. It's creative. It's healing. It's something that I don't know. I've never met anyone who says I hate music. Never, never, ever, ever. Maybe a style, but never as a whole. Um, so yeah, um, I think that just being part of the big picture and propelling each other into a positive, artistic, creative society is super important.
Wonderful. Perfect ending words there. Um, all right, I'll say we've reached the end of another wonderful musical journey here at Piano Tech Radio Hour. Thanks, of course, to Heather Edwards from AhHa Broadway for joining us today. Thanks for everyone that showed up to witness this production live as well. We appreciate you being here. you're catching the sound recording, well, thanks for you as well. Um, as always, we're brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses. This is cutting edge instruction from piano industry masters without leaving your home. If you join us by signing up for this session individually, you can make your life more convenient. You could sign up for Piano Radio Hour at just $16 a month. You get the recording of today's session in our memory area, automatic registration for each week's new session. You could sign up at bit.ly/join PTRH. Don't forget I mentioned the podcast. We got our blog. We got our social medias, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Love to see you out there. Keep alongside of us, and we'll take you to some fun places. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. We'll see you again next week. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to your team too.